प्रेम से बोलो बिंद्रावन बिहारी लाल की जय. Yabhara Ramachandra ki jai. Sitaram everybody. Tonight I'll continue with reading. Tonight I am together with the Kungebeharry family. As we remember, beloved Ray Richard Kungebeharry, this young fella recently closed his eyes and was called back home by Lord Krishna. I had the opportunity to do Guru Diksha with him. A loving brother. He has Daniel and Nikita. His mother and father are there. And loving Auntie Vedo is somebody, she gives her all for her kids. And tonight it is my opportunity to sit with you all, to talk about God and godly things, so that we would be able to help better prepare Ray for his journey ahead. Now, in this time, it is always difficult, and I would like to address this initially. It is always difficult for any death. But when it is a young man or a young person, and they had the entire future in front of them, and the situation seems very bleak, a question that is posed upon it quite regular. Why did this have to happen? Why did God allow this to happen to my son or my relative? Why did I have to lose this person? And the simple answer, but sometimes the callous answer, karma. We banter that word so much that sometimes we misclassify that word, we misuse that word, and not everybody understands what that word is about. Tonight, let me begin. I'm reading these 3 nights, tonight, tomorrow night, and the following night with this family, and for everybody to view and join in and to learn. And the purpose of these nights is simply this. At the home, because of this virus, we are at a distance, but there's a beauty in it, because we are online, more people could view the satsang. In a traditional sense, we would have been home at the house of the deceased, and these tend to be small affairs, 10, 20, 50 people prior to COVID. And sometimes we sit down and we have a nice conversation about a given topic. And at the end, I usually would ask questions, if you have any questions. And there's a reason why. When a person now has passed away, yes, the family is engulfed in grief, but we are quick to remember, we'll get the culture. I don't know if you know this. If somebody came up to you and says, listen, I don't know much, could you tell me what's the first thing we have to do when we hear of a death? We get the culture, we put water, we put the mango leaf, the parai, the rice, the diya is lit. And the concept with that culture is to say, the Jiva Atma, think about it, it just came out of the body, no transformation yet, it's still like a flickering diya light, no arms, no legs, no features, none of these things. And this is under the premise that he didn't say Jai Vishnu, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. If he did that, he went to God, we know that. But in case the person didn't do that, is what we are working with. So whether you are a Pandit, a Swami, or whatsoever, there are certain things we take, we assume, we don't know where you are, we assume you have to go on a difficult journey. I know Pandit Vijay would have discussed with you all the traveling of the soul that has a sinful disposition, meaning hardships and pains and cuts and burdens and all these things. We are assuming worst case scenario, can't get worse than that. So I'm going to prepare in case you need anything. If you have to go on that road, the wise relative prepares worst case. So we are going to do what we have to do to help you. So the first thing, imagine the soul now came out of the body. And bear with me. Think about it. If it were you, I can't remember dying before, so I'm now dead, and the soul is out, and what to do now? Where do I go now? for children to understand, please understand what I'm saying. Do I go by Auntie Vedo's house? Do I go to my house? Do I go to my cousin's place? I have a family in South. I have a relative in Florida. But we're all good. We're all very friendly and filial, and we have good relationship. Who to go by? And this becomes the problem. From a traditional perspective, we would say go to the person's home or the parental home, and everything has to be done there. And the reason why they say it like that is so that the soul comes in this one place where this Krsna is burning to do all the rituals here, and they don't move. Suppose now we have the Krsna burning in, I'm just saying, I'm from New Grant, but we start to offer Tarpan in Shagonas, and we started with Shrad in Port of Spain, but the soul is being told stay here in New Grant. So the logic is do everything in one place so that the soul could witness everything. Now they make that clear. So we start to prepare, and we would be guided to start to offer. After this is funeral and the collection of bones and all these things. And I don't want to rehash these things, but if I'm saying it right now, if you're watching now or you're watching on the replay, and you have questions pertaining to those things that I'm just hopscotching over, meaning the funeral rite, the picking up of the bone, the scattering of the ashes on the water, what makes the pinda, what's the logic of those pindas, what is it about, send me a message and I'll touch on it tomorrow night. In the daytime, we offer the pinda, but in the nighttime, like what we're doing now, we get together to read, to discuss things. And long ago, there were rules, there were standards to these type of satsang, because there are rules to open the Ramayana. If you are going to worship Ramayana, before you start, you have to do the puja for the book, it being the body of Sri Ram. It comes with rules. Tikka, perfume, parsad, arti, chanting, sumiran, doing all these things. And some of those things, we can't do that right now. The house is considered unclean or chutihar. So Ramayana is not it is not now, not during this time. After Bhandara is done, then. So during this time, any text related to Krishna, Vishnu Bhagwan, those are fine. But Ramayana is of a different nature. There are people who will read it, but I don't subscribe to that, simply said. So in these times, the place is considered unclean. We are going to come together, and for the benefit of Ray, we read things, we discuss things that John public is going to listen, and even the family, they are going to learn about why we do certain things, how to do the teachings of God, and there is where the blessings come. By learning about God, this is where the karma comes to play. Karma is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Tonight we're going to discuss that a little bit. Ray is witnessing Auntie Vedo and family have invited and discussed with some of us to come together to discuss something we don't know. It is not scripted. But when you say, that's the first time I hear that. I never knew that. I never thought about that. And you learn something one step closer to your God. You are getting a clearer picture. Imagine you wipe the glasses and you could see your God a little bit better. The question will ask, how did your vision, drishti, how did your knowledge of God improve? It improved because of the invitation that Andy Vedo gave out, that Ray caused. Because of Ray, we are together tonight. Because of this soul and his journey, we get to discuss God, and you're going to learn. And there is where the action repeats, by helping many people, by teaching many people. The soul of the departed one, he gets the benefit, the punyam of doing this type of activity, this satsang, whether we are in front of each other or not. the, the effect of listening, Shravanam, that form of bhakti where I love to hear about my God, I love to hear about my Kanha, I love to listen to it. That encouraging, that Shravanam, where people will sit and listen. They are not doing puja, they are not sharing the food, they are not causing these things to happen, but they are listening. And by doing that, this is where we get together to help this soul. In this instance, Mr. Ray. Tonight, as we are going to hear about a couple of things to start our 3 nights off, we're going to bite the bullet. And we're going to hear about how painful it is for parents to get a son and parents to lose a son. It is the crux of the matter for this family. There's no way around this. When you love somebody and you lose them, it is a heartbreaking thing. But we must understand why. That is my only line tonight, to teach you about why bad things happen to good people. Let me say that again. Why bad things happen to good people. And when you understand that, when we start to rationalize it and we start to massage it in the brain a little more, it might help you and I to do our job, to do our duty, as he says in Gita, do your duty, to do what we must. In this case right now, in front of this family, to do the bar and the bandara and to fast. Why they're cutting their hair, why are they cooking these things, why are they doing these things, to understand what is the linkage, what is the purpose, so that when they get into it, they will be able to do it better. And the truth is, today it's the Kungebeharry family with the rate of spread and how many people are ailing. Brothers and sisters, let me be fair. It could be our family next. So it makes sense to prepare. Last night I was reading in a different text, and the point is made. Why procrastinate? Well, no, I was reading Guru Puran. Why procrastinate? That does not. You and I might say, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to do this next week, I'm going to put this off until I'm on vacation, I'm going to put that trip off until I'm retired. And the next line, Lord Vishnu says, death does not consider what you have planned. Death does not consider what your aspirations are. Death does not concern itself with what you wish to do and what you wanted to do and what you planned and hoped and dreamed to do. It doesn't have that. So why wait? When you are born, you could have 100 years. And I'm remembering what he says in chapter 16. You could have 100 years, and 100 years would never be enough, because half of that 100 years you're going to spend it sleeping and doing lethargic, wasteful type activity where you're not going to achieve anything. A lot of it goes in old age and childhood where you cannot achieve anything. So your active years, productive years, is very small. For some is long, for some is little. Then we have to make use of the time we have. Get into the right activity, get into the right things, so that you don't live a life of regret or constantly thinking, if I get to do this, boy, if I get to do that, boy, etc. If anything, my godson Ray has already closed his eyes, and we will do what we can to help this child. But I think if you see Auntie Vedo, if you see Nikita, if you see Dan, and you understand what human heart goes through when something like this is happening, why not use Ray as an example? Couldn't believe we lost Ray. You really don't have the time that you think you have. You have to make use of the time that you do have. Take strength. Vrindavan Bihari Ki Jai. Let's enter into our discourse now with opening mantras. Tonight, as Lord Krishna will be talking to parents. Close your eyes. Family. Understand that the diya that is lighting is saying, Jiva Atma, Ray Kungebeharry. We loved you in life, and we continue to love you now. This is why we are together. For all those family members that are viewing, everybody who is viewing, maybe you lost your own relative. Feel free to say a prayer. Look at what we are doing in the initial parts of Gerd Puran. He says, how do you know the person who has died is a saintly person or a sinful person? Don't judge the person. Look at the family that is left behind. The family that is left behind of a saintly person. Prabhu, I am crying right now. Tears are running. But dear God, may you accept my prayers. I loved him whilst life was within his body. But may you bless him. Om Bhurbo Aswatat Savitur Varenyam. Bless him and let him go, Prabhu. We loved him while we have him, and we continue to love him, and we want you to lift him up. A family member that prayed selflessly. The sinful person now. Gerd Puran says, this person, Pa, how I go live? Listen, how will I live now that you gone? Mommy, how I, Keshava, go live if you had to cook the roti for me? Mommy, how I, Keshava, go live if you had to give me the pension check, girl? If I can't get your money, how I go live? It is all about me. It is about the person. So then that is an example where you claim to have family, but that is not relative. That is not family, because they are there like parasites that are only there to suck whatever life, whatever money, whatever value they could get from you. That is the sign of a sinful person. Family, gauge yourself. Are we of that caliber? Then let us improve tonight. Did we make any mistakes? Nobody's perfect. For anybody who's looking on, let us come out of this now. Let us pray for the benefit of all those that have departed. You are looking on, dear one. My boy Ray, you are looking on, and what we are doing, we love you then, we love you now. We are praying for you. We are spreading God's knowledge in your name, so that when any person looking on at your satsang, they must be able to up their game in their devotion. And when that happens, you get all the credit, son. We want nothing. If any good could come from this satsang tonight, you take it all. Together, everybody. Om Gajananam Bhutaganadisevitam Kapeta Jumbo Palachara Bhakshitam Umasutam Sho Kavinashkarakam Namami Viganeshwara Padapankajam Sarvamangalamangaliye Shive Sarvata Sadhike Sharanye Trayambike Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everybody. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One more time. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai. Tonight I'll start here in Gita, and then we'll come back to it as our conversation goes on. We're reading from chapter 10, verse 8, 9, 10. I am the source of all creation. Everything in this world moves because of me, O Arjun. Knowing thus, the wise, those bhakt devotees, constantly worship me, with their mind fixed on me, their lives surrendered to me, enlightening one another about my greatness, speaking about me. My devotees ever remain contented and delighted in me. On those ever united through meditation with me, worshipping me with love, I confer the knowledge, the yoga of wisdom through which they come to me. In order to shower my grace upon them, I dwelling in their heart dispel darkness that is coming from ignorance, when you don't know what is the right thing to do, by shedding light of wisdom. That's verse 11. Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki Jai. Very straightforward. We'll come back to it. We go into Brahmavaivat Puran in the Krishna Janam Khan, chapter 72, midway in the chapter. A lot of action is happening. We jump right into it. Nanda and Yashoda have been informed by Akrud that it is time for Krishna and Balaram to come to Mathura. A great wrestling, a great competition, let's just say a mehfil, is being held in Mathura. Secretly, Devaki's brother, the Mamu of Krishna, is preparing to kill him. And Krishna now, after talking it over with Balaram, he knows what has to be done. They jump onto the chariot and they're making their way to Mathura, and the heart of Nanda and Yashoda fell to see that boy move. That is the moment where, if you look at your pictures at home, little trivia here, have you ever noticed the Krishna that is grown Krishna, but he's the emperor now, Dwarka is built. Have you ever noticed he doesn't have the basuri? He doesn't keep the basuri, you know. When that moment came for him to go, he has to go and tell Radha that he's leaving. And Vishwabhanu, the father of Radha while she was on youth, says, Krishna, she is over there, she's lamenting, she's in pain to see you leave, and she's beating the ground, and she's saying, you're going to leave me, and you're going to forget me, and you have to forsake me. And Krishna says, Radha, how will I forget you? How will I forsake you? And he takes the basuri and he says, you keep this, that until I come back to you, I am never going to play this again. And that basuri remained in Vrindavan. And if you look at Krishna when he's, on the chariot, in different scenes, you will see he has the Sudarshan Chakra, but he does not have the basuri anymore. Everybody sees them off and they're going to Mathura. Parents are crying. And when he came into Mathura now, the city was alive to hear of his arrival. They were happy. Wrestling matches had started and they were brought in. Different animals took part. And then Balaram and Krishna were invited into the arena. Let's hear what happens in this first verse. Jai Bhole Baba Tab Sharanam, Jai Bhole Baba Tab Sharanam, Jai Bhole Baba Tab Sharanam, Jai Samba Sada Shiva Tab Sharanam, Yogi Darshan Yetam Deva Paramatma Namishya Sharanam, Yatha Hridaya Panda Madhya Tadrishtam Bahirevascha Rajindra Rupa Rajanaye षष्टंकर घंटा ये करह, पीता माता धूरवर मुख, संतन भालक तत्पर कम, जय भोले बाबा तब शरणम, जय भोले बाबा तब शरणम, उमापति महादेव की जय. They got there and entered, lifting the bow of Mahadev Baba, killing different elephants, different things that Kans had put, as first round, second round, different enemies then. Different wrestlers came into the assembly, all one by one, all fell. All the ascetics, all the good people, godly people were encouraged. The devatas were looking down from heaven. All the kings were looking on to see what is going to happen next. Vasudeva and Devaki are brought out from the jail cell, and they see these two boys fighting in the arena. But Devaki cannot say who is who. In Bhagavad Puran, Devaki whispers to Vasudeva, which one is mine? Which one is mine? She doesn't know Balram is hers. Balram, Shankarsana, is the one, he was like IVF, the ovum is plucked from one womb and placed into another womb. Rohini delivers Balram, but the egg came from Devaki. She says, husband, Patidev, which one of the heroes there is mine? And he says, you see the darker one? That is yours. That is your son. In that moment, in that battlefield, tears start to roll from the eyes of Devaki. To know I've waited so long to see you. And she's talking to him as if that's an infant. But so mystical is the power of Kanha that to the mother, that was a baby, a toddler playing in that arena. The damsels and all the young girls looked at him as a young boy, full of good looks, and out of love, they looked at him. Kansa, on the other hand, saw Krishna and Balaram as the greatest enemy, the greatest form of adversary that he had. The wrestlers look at them as if they were two forms, mirror images of Yamraj. And all the Yadhav looked at them as hope. Namaskrityam munin vapran patar matar guruham janam manchaka kamyaksha haste krita sudharshanya drishtva bhaktya bhaktavandayate Narayanaya Krishnaya Paramatmaya Namo Namam. Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki Jai. Krishna took time to bow to all the munis. Garg Muni, the person who did his Nam Sanskar, who gave him the name, he was there close to Vasudeva and Devaki in the audience, and he came and he paid pranam. He bowed to Devaki and Vasudeva and then reached close to Kans. And that person challenged Kans to come. And when Kans did come in, very quickly Krishna was dragging him. And at the time of death, Kans looked at the entire universe. And he saw inside Krishna, he saw the entire universe, and he found that a plane, a pushpak, a celestial plane had come from the body of Krishna to take his Jiva Atma to Vishnu Lok. And by dying at the hands of Krishna, he got that mukti, Jivan Mukti, that you and I might only dream about. After destroying Kans, all forms of riches were shared. Ugrasen is freed, father of Kans. But the mother of Kans, the wives of Kans, the brothers, mother-in-laws, all these people, they were lamenting, "O Rajendra, O Kans, you appeared in front of us as if you were this towering royal lion, ruling over this country, protecting riches, relatives besides. O valorous person, how is it that you have come to leave us? You have left us as if we are orphans. How could you leave us now? O preserver of your family, who is more powerful than you?" When Kans fell, because he wasn't bad to everybody. He's only, as we were told in Bhagavad, he was only rough because he was afraid he was going to die. But after all, when Devaki was going to marry, remember, he wanted to drive the chariot. He was very good to them. But he had rough ways with many people, and for that he was destroyed. The gods continuously, day and night, sang the name of Krishna. Saraswati, with her knowledge and her ability, became exhausted trying to articulate the mode of the universe when this scourge, when this darkness was lifted. The relief that Dharti Mata feels when this heavy unrighteousness is no longer there, the blissfulness that came in its place, that the relief of the earth and its burden had come at last. And this illusionary Kanha is doing his job. He's the Lord of all. And if he has come to do his work, there is nothing to stop that work. At this time, Vasudeva and Devaki get to come close to him. And the mother is so happy that she gets to hold on to him. Now he's a teenager. The last time she saw him, he was a baby, Janamashmi night. She did not get to breastfeed him. She did not get to feed her child. And in this moment, she's telling herself, what type of sinful mother am I that I did not get to enjoy you as a baby? You know, sometimes we think, and I guess including myself, we all do this. We think that our situation is the worst situation. But there are sometimes people who have it more badly than we do. As food was being served for the Brahmanas, Krishna spoke to Devaki and he says, "Oh Ma, who happens to be the soul of everything, went to the parents and he started to take off all the chain and everything that they had been tied up with, and he prostrated in front of them and he offered them prayer." Krishna says, let's hear what he does in this sloka. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol. 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 Pitarang Matarang Vidya Mantradham Gurumevascha Yona Pushnati Purusho Yavajivam cha Madhu Suchiha Sarvesham Mapi Pujanam Pita Vidyu Mahaguru Pita Shatgunamar Mata Garbharana Shotanayetam. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol. 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 Vrindavan Bihari Lala Ki Jai. The one who does not maintain the father, the mother, the teacher, the bestower of knowledge, the teacher who bestows mantra, The bestower of knowledge, this is how your mother becomes your first guru, because she's the one who teaches you the first things, first set of standards in your life. She puts you on that scale. If your mother never tell you wipe your mouth, you're by the table. Who's going to do that? If your mother does not instill within you, you must be truthful, child. Little things. Bow to your father foot, bow to your mother foot before you go on your bed. Little standards. Who is going to teach you those things? The etiquette, the toilet manners, table manners, etc. To light your first diya. Mommy and daddy, very important in this. The Diksha Guru is the one who gives you the mantra. By using this mantra, you find yourself ridding yourself of past sin, karma. Such a person remains impure throughout this world because of all the people in the world. The father is quite adorable. Why is the father so adorable? Because you owe that father something besides the genetics. Bear in mind, Hinduism, whilst we say mother is important, we do not leave out the father. Mommy is mommy, but mommy couldn't make the baby without daddy. And when there are different words to describe it, but you ever hear somebody say, you remind me of your father, dear boy, you do that just like your father. The mannerisms, the way you speak, tone of voice, habits, likes, dislikes. Your father was just like you, like the rice on one side and the dal on the other side and not mixed together. Those things, those habits, those trends, those characteristics, genetically based, come from your father. And this is one of the things that you owe daddy for. And then the other thing is things like his surname, the family background, the character, etc. The teacher, the mother who carries you where? In the garba. The garba is the word for womb. When people talk about garba dhan, sanskar, husband and wife sit together and they bless the belly. That before we copulate, before we go forward to have children, I invite Mahavishnu to sit within you, woman, and God bless from husband to wife what has to happen in order for this ovum to form. The lady is then left with the weight of the pregnancy, and parents bring up the child are therefore 100 times more valuable, deserving of adoration compared to friends, family, people who will favor you with money, luxury, love, etc. Because of the sacrifice of the mother, the marks upon her body, the cuts upon her body, the pain, the hormonal imbalance, the pain that father goes through in helping mother to do all that is necessary, these moments are not forgotten. And Krishna tells his mother, but dear ma, there is only one lady in this life that did that. And because they bestow welfare, of all those who bestow welfare on a person, the mother is treated as the highest source of that welfare. There is no other relative closer than a mother in this universe. But obviously, this is talking about a true mother. This is not somebody who biologically has a child and does not care for the child, does not love the child, does not lift the child. As you keep hearing me saying, the mother is a guru that bestows knowledge, training, teaching, discipline, so that the child is able to grow. If you don't give in those things, biologically making a child, that does not constitute these things here alone. In this world, the one who is next to the mother, the teacher who bestows knowledge, is more glorious than the mother, because through the Veda, through the studies of all the different yoga and all the different things. When I say yoga again, yoga just means the pathway to reach to God. So you like to sing for God, you like to make parasad for God, you like to paint the murti, make the murti, sit for puja, make the mala. What is your way of finding God? There are many ways described in Gita. Did you remember what he said? Let me hear it again. With their minds fixed on me, their lives surrendered to me, enlightening one another about my greatness, speaking of me, so that means you're talking with other people, my devotees ever remain contented, and meaning you're happy, you're satisfied, and take delight in me. Oma, these studies of these Ved Yoga, then if this is what gives a person freedom, then there's nobody who could be more adored than that person. O sage, thus speaking, Krishna and Balaram offered their salutations again and again to Devaki and Vasudeva, embracing them and then taking out food for them. Vasudeva getting very delighted, and he started in a husbandly, in a kingly manner, started to give dawn on behalf of this momentous occasion that they were free and they were seeing their children. But whilst this was going on, bitter tears were crying. Because on one side, we just heard the value of getting the adoration. But on the other side, somebody's losing a son. The entire battalion from Vrindavan had arrived to see the final match between Kans and Krishna. Yashoda, who had seen this child grow, but she doesn't have the blessing for him to grow within her. She's a foster mother. She's a surrogate mother nonetheless. Do you remember Potna? Do you remember all the different demons that came one after the other? He was on top of Kalia one day dancing, and this lady was the person who, it was as if Krishna held her by her throat. She was so captivated by every single leela that he played that she couldn't do her job. She wants to go and do her job, she has to come back. When she tied him against the mortar and the pestle and he moved, she became afraid because that mortar and pestle could have crushed him. When she tried to tie him and the rope is getting shorter, do you remember these things? You know him, you know these stories. The miracles, the jadoo, the magic of Krishna, she is allowed to see it. She sees the mud in the mouth. Balaram says, Ma, Krishna is eating mud. And she says, Kanha, do you have mud in your mouth? Mm-mm. And this mother saw the universe inside his mouth. And Krishna has to take it back out from her. He has to make her forget. Otherwise, she would look at him and see God and not son. As soon as he took it back out, Bhagavad says she started to come Kanhanchi, cleaning out the mouth. When he steals the markan, the only person who had him on the run with a whip. As soon as he licks past, hug up start. Krishna had Yashoda wrapped around his fingers. And now she's standing there and she's realizing that somebody else is holding her son. Somebody else is going to take her son away from her. That Devaki is saying, you have come back to me. Vasudeva is holding on and Nand is shaking. Narayan, Sri Hari Vishnu is saying the body of Nand is trembling as he is suffering from the grief of separation. To see the son, and the son is leaving and he's feeling so helpless, crying aloud. He even fainted. And even then, Krishna comes to them, to his Vrindavan family, puts the head of Nanda in his lap, and he says, "Oh Nanda Baba, shed away this grief and feel delighted in my words." He's playing with his face, imparting divine knowledge to you, which I have done before and I will do it again. The knowledge was imparted by me in earlier times at Pushkar Kshetra to Brahma, Sheshnag, Ganesh, Shiva, Surya, the ascetics, the yogis. The people continue to come and go in this universe according to the results of their actions. Therefore, who is the Father and who is the Son? Everyone takes birth at a particular place and time according to their karma. Someone takes birth where there's a great yogi. Someone is taking birth as a great queen. Someone would be born as a Brahman. Someone would be born as a Kshatri, a Vaishya, a Sudra, man, woman. Then there are people who would be born, meaning the Jew Atma, the soul, would be born as a bird, as an animal, a person that is confused and influenced by illusions. Then there are people who delight only in worldly pleasure. Some people who cannot control themselves with eat and drink, alcohol, etc. They don't know how to fast, whatever. They feel painful at heart with the departure of their relatives. There are those people that feel painful at heart with the departure of their relatives. For them, the loss of their sons and their daughters, loss of land, loss of riches is more painful than even their own death. Because of this, these people suffer from grief. But when intelligence comes, that grief goes. My devotees, who is filled with devotion, is self-disciplined and adores by the recitation and the reciting of mantras, stotras, suktam, because of his being always devoted to me, he always remains spotless and without blemish. Remember, Ananda, the wind blows because of my wishes. The sun rises, illumines this universe. The moon, the rays, Indra will do his work and pour rain. The fire will burn and death takes sway. The number of lives of people. The trees blossom timely with flowers and fruit. None of these things happen without me. And in this way, there are those that will find their way back to Vaikuntha, and there are those that will be caught into this web of Maya. But what keeps them caught into the web of Maya? Their karma. Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai. Let me just hold my hand on this part here, and I want to read something for you. As you're listening to him talk there, having read these things in many homes over the years, sometimes people, we again, I'm saying it, we hear of karma, but I don't know what I mean. I know if I kill somebody, that's bad, but I don't know the intricacies. I've never heard of it. When you do bad, what really happens? What I've heard, Pandit Vijay was talking, and I've heard Baba say that the person goes through punishment, hardship. This is why we need to offer pinda, sapinda dan. But what's the problem? What causes, what does happen? What happens that could cause heartache, pain? There is, and he's hinting it there. But now, just to go a little deeper into it, let's go into Garud Puran. This is chapter 5, Prit Manjari. Garud is talking to Lord Vishnu, and he says, you said that the person dies, he goes to the walkway, let's say the pathway to Yamraj. Along the pathway, they get punished after meeting the 16 cities and the kings. And what happens when they meet the kings? More or less, let's go easy. Imagine somebody says to you, you promised to be faithful in marriage. Were you faithful? Were you not faithful? Yes or no? Bad or good? You said you would be a good brother. Were you a good brother? Were you a bad brother? And they judge the person. So they start to tally. Different things are asked of the soul. Some people are prepared to answer yes, good. Some people not. Some people one day I'll be a good boy. Some people, the door for that relationship closed. Maybe somebody died after the fact, and they never sought forgiveness. They never sought to get some form of closure, that they would be forgiven for that past deed. So you have to walk with that. But he says, suppose now I've received all my punishment, or I go to the heavenly regions, I've received all my good, and then you say, I come back upon the earth. Blessed people are born with a happy, human, healthy body, meaning no genetic difficulty. You have all your sense organs, everything's working, no sickness. And you have this life full of potential. How would I know, Lord Vishnu, first verse, how would I know my past activity? How would I know the karma that is there, that could be impending trouble? So, these things. Tonight, Lord Vishnu is about to answer him. Garud says, could you tell me what signs, are there signs of the sin that I would have committed in my previous birth, so that I would be able to say, okay, maybe I need to atone for these sins. I need to get to work on it, so that I would be able to clear my path. What are we talking about? If you imagine, in a literative sense, imagine we make an umbrella, and in the umbrella we call that the karma umbrella. Under that karma umbrella, there are subsections of karma. Two main ones we're going to focus on tonight is parabdha karma. Parabdha karma, based on your past activity, God gives you the ability to be expressed as a male or a female. Then Hindu home, Christian home, whatever type home. Your understanding of God or not. Your understanding of family life or not. Your health, your lifespan. All these things are factored into, and you're given a body. But upon the body, he says, I give you marks, little things that hint to you, the person, imperfections, that hint to you that you have to atone for past activity. If you never heard these things before, my advice is please take a note, so that where it applies to you. Let me say this, I am not talking about any one person. I don't know who is viewing. I'm on this side of the camera. I don't know who is viewing, but I am definitely not speaking about you. If some of these things, because there might be an overlap, if some of these things happen to fall in the garden of somebody, please be mature. And don't say, oh, that is why you did. So Pandit Keshava say, you is a sin person because you have this or that on your body. That is not my purpose here tonight. So let's go. The sins on account of which the sinful return from Narak or Swargalok, heavenly regions, come to particular birth signs are produced by particular sins. Please hear of these sins. When a person destroys a Brahman or a praying person or a person who has the Janu, in their next life they have lung related problems described here as consumption. So they always coughing. The kill of a cow, upon their body they will develop a little hump back. The hump to the base of the neck here, little hump, big hump, hump is hump. The person who destroys the body, kills a kanya, in their next life, their body would be marred and scarred from disease like leprosy and psoriasis. The slayer of women, destroyer of embryos, they are complicated cases and tend to have many types of disease that seem to be feeding on the body all at once, and they become very tricky or very complex in treatment. He who commits illicit intercourse with family members, with animals, etc., in your next life, you are born as a man, but you do not have the testicles. You are considered to be a eunuch. The person who in any way makes a past sexual advance against the teacher's wife becomes, their skin becomes very diseased. The person who is a slave to the tongue when it comes to flesh. Now, let me clarify this. If you're a meat eater, but you can, okay, well, you know what? On a Tuesday, I would like to abstain. For Diwali, I would like to fast in preparation for Diwali, and you could do that. Then you are not a slave, you're in control, and that's fine. But there are some people who cannot help themselves. They do not want to try. Those people, you ever seen that on your undertone, you could have a yellow undertone or a red undertone. So they get angry, you'll see red. They get in the sun, they see red. You squeeze, you would see red as opposed to yellow. When a person is very red, it is a sign and indicative that in their previous birth, they were a slave to that type of food and flesh. The person who is a slave to intoxicant, alcohol, etc., in his next life, he would be formed with discolored and, like really disfigured teeth. Just as we to throw in here, if you're listening to this, send me a comment. Think about it. In other religion, they say God made man in his image. No problem. That is explaining the perfection of man. But when you have sickness, when you have difficulty, when you have loss, when you have lack, how do you explain that? Did God fall asleep? Did God forsake somebody? When the child is born with autism or Down syndrome or cancer is diagnosed, did God forget that person? Listen again. The person who out of greed eats but never shares, or eats what is not supposed to be eaten, the person's stomach becomes infected and they have stomach problems. The person out of pride insults their teacher. Meaning, think about it, not just the insult by the lip, but think about the thoughts of the child. I know more than that stupid teacher. What that teacher know? What that pundit know? What that mother know? What that father know? I know more than them. All you're so dotish, all you know how to put on Facebook or put on TikTok or them kind of thing. Man, look. And in a kind of dismissive way, thinks to himself or herself that they have more knowledge than the parents or the guru or the teacher in the school system whatsoever. In your next life, don't worry. Because in this life you lived with a kind of thought that you were this, all that. Chances are you're not. In your next life, when your brain with the neuronic energy is shooting like that, you will get epilepsy. And as you start to think, and your brain short circuits so much that the tongue starts, people bite with all their force. They swallow their tongue, they could choke. It is not a pretty picture. It is not to make light of anybody's situation either. But it is an explanation. Where does it come from? Nobody with that epileptic child, or if they get married, God bless them. Because not everybody could handle that type of life. If an epileptic person, when it is near to full moon, they're in trouble. If they use too much of phone with the magnet, they're in trouble. If lightning strike, they're in trouble. And not everybody had the patience and the love to care for people like that. What the mother and father will do when the child is getting older, they are getting older too. Who will be there to feed him, care for him, or the girl, as the case might be. The person who ill speaks the Vedas, the Shastras, the Puranas, etc. And they don't, it's not to say you can't debate, not debate, but despise. It'll speak. There are people, and I say it often to people, if you want to convert, that is your right. Convert, that is you. Go. I am not in the business of trying to sweeten and entice Hinduism to bait anybody to come back. It is left to your karma if you are of the caliber to be in this thing, and you reap the rewards. If not, I wish you well. If you sometimes you convert, fine, go. But it is as if their newfound religion could only stand up when you sing this one. You didn't understand it before. You didn't practice it properly, but now you go on a new place and you start to ill speak. And this is where some people get themselves in trouble. That your liver in your next life will start to fail and you will suffer from major jaundice. This is also why when some people have babies and the jaundice is so severe that they have to incubate and they have to do different things. And the prayers that we say to help partly ask for praschit. The other side of the karma, remember we talk about, I forget the word totally, but where God says, okay, I'll make you a brother, I'll make you a man, I'll make you this, parabdha karma. Praschit karma now is the next type of karma we're going to talk about tonight. Praschit karma says, okay, so I understand that my child has jaundice, and that jaundice is caused by ill-speaking text. Pundit, how to counteract that sin? What prayer could I say to overcome this punishment? And this is why prayers does work. When utilized in the proper way, the praschit karma, the fasting or the positive karma activity counteracts the sin. This is why these signs are on your body. This is why these things are there, for you to start to do the correct thing now. So just like maths, let me just say the scale has a whole set of bad, and you have this burden, you have this amount of bad karma. The opportunity is given to you for you to be here upon the earth, for you to do good now, to kind of change the balance so that you could ascend to Vaikuntha. So what we're doing tonight is identifying some of the signs of the sin, and then we could talk about how to overcome them. The person who bears false witness, don't worry. You use this tongue to tell untruth in your next life, what will happen? This will not work. Go and ask a parent who has a child who cannot speak. And the question you will hear from all of them is, what did my child do? What did my child do to deserve this? And it's not nice, but this is the history. This is why God allows it to happen. The person who breaks the meal rule becomes one-eyed. In Himachal Pradesh, in India, it's quite common, like what we do in Trinidad and in parts of North America, where we, when we have the shroud or the wedding, we sit down as a group to eat, like in a circle or something, or rows. Meal row is what it's saying here. Usually the pundit and the elders are there, and you'll see them sit down together to have a meal. The etiquette, I don't know if anybody ever taught you this. Please leave me a message if you know about this. The etiquette is you are supposed to wait until everybody has finished their meal, eat and empty the leaf and all that. And this is where we just pick up the leaves and all that. You're not supposed to get up or break in that row until everybody has eaten, and the senior person, whether it's an elder or the pundit, gives you permission to stand. When you break that rule, your eye, one of your eyes would be damaged, or that would become damaged. So maybe it have people with glaucoma or cataract or any other eye related ailment. Where was God when that was happening to me? Why would God allow that to happen? And for this reason, on the corrective side, on the praschit side, Somdevta or Chandrama, the moon, is in charge of the eyes. And when you are doing different types of offering to him, different offerings into the fire, different mantra, a person could reverse the possibility of problems that they see with their eyes, for example. So there's a correlation of doing the negative karma, and now you have punishment. Let's do positive karma to change. Let's continue. The person who interferes in a marriage becomes, in their next life, they will have no lip. And they don't have anything to put lipstick on. The person who steals books becomes blind. The person who strikes a cow that foot they use to hit that cow or hand, it becomes twisted or lame. When you see people have stroke, when you see people born without a limb or they lose a limb, it's very hard to see, but it is rooted in some negative karma. The person who enjoys speaking a lot of lies, in their next life, they will be born with a stutter or a stammer. The person who loves to listen to the lies, listen to the gossip, listen to all the different stories, knowing maybe fully well it's not true, that person in the next life, don't worry, the ears are not going to work. They lose their hearing. Why am I losing my hearing so young in life? Because of what you did in your previous. A person who poisons another person, physically gives poison to another person, in your next life, God made everybody, but he made every person in the madhouse. Who is born insane, who is born with these complexes and these things that affect the brain? The person who administers poison to other people, so that when they are reborn upon this earth, they are born in a scenario or genetically or whatever, that their brain does not work the way you and I work. There are different things that trigger people's stress, their diet, family experience, the environment they grow up in, and the genes. I agree, but there are different factors that affect people. For example, if we go to pray in the hospital and it's full moon time, the same people that we sit down and pray with, we cannot venture close. From my own experience, you can't go close because the moon, the magnetic pull from that planet, from that body, is impacting something into the fluid of the brain. And these people get violent. They could damage themselves. Have you ever seen them in a straitjacket? Something is going on that is different. And that difference is because of the activity. When you hear about people poisoning animals, putting poison in water, drinking poison, but no, not to themselves, but other people. Drinking poison for yourself is something else. A person who is an incendiary, the person likes to burn other things. People who like to light up fires, like to see people's garden or the house, etc. burn. Remember the other day, I believe it was last year, I could be wrong, subject to correction. There was a video on social media where a young boy lit a chicken, I don't want to say chicken, a chicken or a dog with some type of gas, and the animal is well alive, running, potting, and it was burning. It was a big joke. When people experience that sense of cruelty, that's a different thing. But when you happen to light fires and you like to see other people's things burn, don't worry, in your next life, God will make you bald. You'll lose all your hair. That is what caused baldness. The same fire that you light there, it is as if somebody lit the fire on your head and you lose everything. For some people, they can't stand the idea of becoming bald. It affects their self-confidence and all these things. This is why it happens. The person who is very unlucky complains that, somehow it always like somebody always more lucky than me, they always getting better than me, they always admit more than me, they get things, my brother, my sister, my whosoever, they benefit more than me. I'm very unlucky. And I'll agree, there are some people that are very unlucky. What causes unluckiness? You see people who sell fresh, or the word here is stink meat, anything that is wild meat, animals that have a poor digestive tract, a rodent type digestive tract, or simple as pork. Just as Christianity and Muslim have an issue with the animal, Hinduism has that as well. Truthfully, just as Hinduism forbids the use of beef, we also forbid the use of pork because of the ingestion, the type of things it will eat. They will eat their own, they will eat anything. They would eat flesh, anything. And we don't have the problems that the Christians have, that there's no clear genealogy to a horse or to a cow or whatsoever. What it was, like you could see an elephant was a mammoth before, generations or years before. What was a pig before? And we don't have that problem, but we have a problem with the quality of it is considered like a, a scavenger. And in our Dharma, we don't really support the eating of scavengers because of a bacteria, because of the idea of the meat being very unclean. If you sell that, the reaction is in the next life, you'll be born very unlucky. So one simple way of overcoming this is that you do good to animals like that. Some people feed, whether it is kobo or raven, and don't you hear people talk about feeding the bird when we have Shrad? There is one example of where you are trying to satiate this type of sin. The person who steals jewels is born into a low family. Low family, not only caste, but imagine the lessons that the parents teach, the upbringing, the need to go to school, the opportunities to learn, have education, have ambition. Imagine you were born into a business family that practice, you do everything you have to do. You have to pray, you have to offer your dar, you have to get up and eat, and then you have to get up early, get to your business place, open your shop, and do what you have to do. As opposed to maybe somebody who is living on food stamps, that life is hard, and because the rain is falling, because I don't have education, because of this color of my skin, I cannot get up and get like other people. And you become an impediment in your own life. But it is also encouraged by parents. It is encouraged by brothers and sisters. That type of family is not going to lift you out of sin and towards God. It will probably encourage you to become more crooked and banditry than anything else, as you're always looking for an easy way out. But one day, you'll be caught into the web of the law, the jail system, and you would want to blame somebody else, but who you going to blame? You did the action. And now you will go to jail and pay for the time. The person who steals gold, look at their nails. Their nails always have a discolored like fungus under the nails, and the nail starts to split. The person who steals any type of metal from people, in their next life, they are born into the worst form of poverty. Those that steal food from people. This is why, before you accept anything, you always pray to the Krishna, you touch this food first. Krishna Arpan. Somebody once told me, Pandit, do you pray over, let me be straight, right? Do you pray over if you're eating meat, I just feel bad. So, I ask you this. If God is here, there, and everywhere, God don't see you when you're greedily gushing down the KFC and drinking the beer like you don't have tomorrow. God don't see that part. The truth is, God is everything, and whatever you're ingesting, truthfully, Krishna, bless my food. When Mirabai offered the poison, the mother-in-law had put scorpion poison. Dear Lord, bless this food before I eat it. It's just that. It became honey and nectar. Let me continue. The person who steals food, taking food without permission, eating food without grace, that person becomes a rat. The person who steals grains becomes a locust. The person who steals water. There's something called a chataka bird, which is a bird or a species of bird that has to live on the raindrops. If the water touches the earth, it becomes unclean, and the bird cannot drink that water. So when the rain doesn't fall, it could be living next to a river and it would not be able to drink the water. So you're constantly thirsty. The person who steals poison, in your next life you'll become the holder of the poison, the scorpion. The person who steals vegetables, leaves, in your next life you'll become a peacock. The person, I love this one, the person who steals perfume, in your next life you'll become the musk, the rat, the musk deer. You know, we love musk perfume. Do you know what musk perfume is? Initially, now you have synthetic forms, but initially the these species of musk deer, musk rat, the testicle sac of the male had a strong potent oil, the attar, and they would sever these parts and boil it and extract the oil, and this is where the source of musk perfume, and this is hundreds of years ago. Now they make it synthetically. You want to thief the perfume, you will become the perfume. The person who steals honey, you'll become a fly. You steal flesh, you steal the meat of somebody else, a vulture. You steal salt, you'll become an ant. If you steal sapari, fruits, flowers, leaves, you'll become a forest monkey. Where does that apply to me and you? I'm sure Daniel went to pick leaves once in his life, and Mommy said, make sure and ask the neighbor, make sure and ask the tree, at least ask somebody, get somebody's permission. So watch what Keshava is using myself. The neighbor had need, me have bill, I have prayers. Me, I go in by the fence, me ask me to talk to him, me gonna ask him nothing, I just go in and pick, brother. He gonna know. Pick flowers, pick everything. Come back home, and when I do a Christian puja, I tell Krishna, this is from me to you with love. But that is not yours. In that moment, you stole it. Did the owner know you take it? Did you get permission to take it? No. And this is where now you are destined to become this monkey. So what happens? The soul leaves the body. Out of this human body, you go to Yamraj, you are judged. You get punishment or you get pleasure in heaven. And when that is done, it's time for you to come back upon the earth. Well, he'll say, you know what? Because you stole those leaves and those flowers, etc., go and be a monkey for 2 janam. Take the soul from the person and put it inside the monkey. Take the soul from the person, you will become a rat in the next janam. You will become a fly in your next janam. You will be born as an epileptic in the next janam. You will be a paralytic person in your next janam, etc. This is how God, based on what we're talking so far, this is how God determines who will become what. How does God know to put? Because remember, we belong to a religion that we worship the cow. We bow to the dog. We would bow to the tulsi plant. We would bow to the banyan tree. We would bow to the undumbara tree. We would bow to the shami plant. We will bow to all the river, the lake, the ocean, the sky, the sun, the different planets. You name it. We see God in everything. Omnipresent. But if that divinity, the Jew, is the same in all these different entities, you know, we like to think we are big and in control, and the answer is minute. But the Jew is the same. The energy, the power system, the battery life of each body is the same Jiva Atma. How does God decide who becomes an ant, who becomes a rat, who becomes a monkey, who becomes a rich man, a poor man, a happy man, a depressed man, a suicidal guy, a person with blood related issues? Think about that. The person who steals shoes, grass, cotton, clothing, in the next life you'll be born in a sheep's womb. The person who lives by violence, robbing, holding up people side the road, etc., fond of hunting, in your next life you'll become a goat that will be born in the butcher's home. So you know, like in Trinidad, when you go to River Flyover and you see the goat grousing real nice here, and the butcher doing he work right there on the side because he's next. What did that animal do? And just jump forward here so that we could get back to the question. Okay. The person who deceives a friend becomes a mountain vulture. The person who cheats in selling, like grains, the scale and thing, in the next life you'll become an owl while everybody resting you there outside, ooh, ooh, trying to figure out where you could skull and who you could thief from again. The person who feels as if they are never going to act their age, they're never going to act like a child. The child who wants to rush life, and then you have people who don't want to respect their age or they respect their their maturity. These people are reborn as pigeons who seem to not in that form. They don't have, you don't see an old pigeon or a young pigeon. And because of that age disrespect, chances are the attitude and the activities are going to pull down the person. Think about the child who wants to, become sexually active at 14 years old, and the lies and the stories to mommy and daddy at a minimum. They don't want to stay home, they want to run away, they want to do all types of things. And that pain comes back or to follow that person. The person who destroys hope, the person who destroys affection, the person through dislike abandons their spouse, whether wife or husband. In your next life, you become a geese, unruly goose for a long time. The person who hates mother, father, teacher, quarrels with sister and brother. Verse 25, chapter 5, is born into the woman as the embryo that people will abort or cancel, or would be the miscarriage. What that child that come to be, and not by our actions to say our abortion, but we just miscarried. What did that child do? How could an innocent Jew, what did the child do? Trust me, hated mother, hated father, hated teacher, quarrel with brother and sister, for everybody looking on. You see those little brother and sister squabbles? We need to check ourselves. We need to learn to live with respect and love, please. They end up being destroyed in the embryonic stage, in the womb, for thousands of births, thousands of times. So your soul goes into the womb, see it, the ovum starts to grow. You can't offer flowers, you can't say a prayer, you can't do anything to help yourself until you're born. But before that could come, cancel that pregnancy. So imagine if tonight me and you feeling warm naturally as people, and we sweat, or if we put pepper in my mouth burn. Imagine you're living inside somebody who feeling warm. Imagine you're at the mercy of the person wherever they eat. If you hungry, hard luck, you have to wait until mommy eat. Good or bad, what she eat, not everybody healthy, whatever, that is what you have to live on. And then die, and go back into another womb and die, and go into another womb and die. The sufferation from this hatred for mother and father and teachers. The women who abuse mother-in-law and father-in-law. When you accept mother-in-law and father-in-law, these people accept you, especially for the woman, because you have joined into the husband family, accepted name and so on, and cause constant quarrels with them. In your next life, you'll be born a leech. A leech is a parasitic life form that attaches itself like this to a host. But how does it live? Right here by the head, pops a hole in the host's skin, and it sucks the blood. It feeds off the entity. Just like that, some people go into their husband's home and they enjoy, they take. But when it is time to give back respect, love, some form of compassion or sympathy, in fact, that woman who scolds her husband publicly, now don't get me wrong, it have some husband who just look for it, but it have a we. This is talking about, it have some people like to embarrass husband in public, and then it have some ladies just beat them with the bill now home. So pundit saying, you could crack him too if you're looking for it. Me encourage, I joking, me encourage it licks. It's good if the man hit it, they're good if the woman hit. But when there's a moment and a husband needs guidance, do it private. And I guess we could be big people and we could apply the same to a wife. You don't have to belittle anybody in public. You know, as mature people, you could say, you know what, I need to talk to you one side. Let me just kind of make a plan. I don't like what you're saying, I don't like what you're doing, please cool down. Stop. And in that way you get the same message across, but you did not commit sin. But when the person enjoys belittling and speaking about, let me go as far as saying that, you know, there are women and men, well, you couldn't make a child for me, or you can't father a child with me, and that is why it is so, and this kind of belittling. If you understand, I'm just trying to express what I'm talking about. You could never bring home enough money for me, etc. So you scold the person and belittle him or her in public. In your next life, you'll be born as a louse, living off the blood, again a parasite, on the head of the person. A disease, a plague. Those people who abandon their wife or their husband, run after another woman or man, in their next life they become a fox, very sly, or a house lizard. You know, long time when we were growing up and I was by my nanny, and then in the board house you used to see these lizards, well, we used to call it wood slave. It used to look freaky kind of thing, and you used to see them running. Where they come from, where they going, now we know where they come from. There are many sins. There are many different type of actions. Oh, here's one. The person who goes into the house where it is unclean, like at Ray's home right now, where Bandara is not done, where Sapinda rite is not done, the house is considered Chutihar. And if you are not affected by the death, so families in a different category, they are already of the unclean. Meaning, tomorrow they can do Hanuman Puja. Let me say myself, if I come by Daniel, and I was to sit down and drink the coffee or eat the little whatever, it says by eating in an unclean place, the person in the next life becomes a dog, scavenging for food through rubbish and that type of life. Let me just think about this. Have you ever seen a dog die side the highway? Or nobody didn't love that dog. How does God make the decision to put that dog in those circumstances? What did that dog do? And the truth is, there are some people, hey, Daniel, you're here up the road at our wake. Dan, let me go now, boy. I hear they're serving scotch and biscuit, boy. Let me go and play a game of Wappy and let me see what we can get when we go there. I hear they share real thing last night. When you become a scavenger in this life, when you become something that feeds off other people, these people lost, you know. These people lost somebody they love. And we trying to capitalize on that. In your next janam, you will become this dog that nobody will want. And you scavenge, Papa. Now, in my younger days, you know how it is when you have Tanti, like Tanti Vedo, Pundit, make your way you say. I remember the first time I read Gerd Puran, I would have been 14 years old. 14 years old, and I say, me, I want no coffee or water or nothing. Pundit, make your way you say, you know, you had to eat something. So, even in this, it happened that I eat and drink. So then, how do we come out of this? Just to hint this one point. Get up the next morning and feed a dog. Simple as that. For the same reason, when you all are doing the Bandara, the 6 year, Kush grass one, we burn one so the bacteria will get, microbes will get food through the oxidation. We simulate for the aquatic life. We're supposed to put it in the river, but truthfully most people don't live by rivers anymore, so they will put it in a bucket with water, and that will get to the river to feed fishes and aquatic life. Birds, we talk about the vulture and so on. The ants, crawling type insect, and a dumb animal. Usually a dog Now, because of the kind of food we just prepare, people wouldn't feed it to their cow. The oil and the anchar and all them things. That is where the food is going. And this is an example of how praschit comes to play. If you didn't, I'm taking a pause here. If you didn't know some of these things, please message me and we could go over it. Those who are very sinful, having passed through dreadful hells that Pandit Vijay had hinted on, produced by their great sins, are born here to exhaust their karma. When a person has to go through certain activities, experiences, whether it is deception through friendship, hurt through family, loss, forcible robbery, whether you blame it on the moon and the stars and that alignment, all these things are happening because of karma. Therefore, a person does not have the luxury of neglecting the time, neglecting the ability to help themselves. And in truth, the person has to give what they could give, do what you could do to free themselves of this type of karma. These and other signs at birth and others are seen to be the karma embodied in your body, and thus the maker of bad karma, having experienced the tortures of Narak, are born with the residual of this sin in their physical form, then obtaining from thousands of lives the bodies of animals. They suffer from carrying the burden and the miseries, having experienced the misery of the bird, which is the cold weather, the rain, the heat. Alternatively, they reach to the human state, and the good and the evil are balanced in this life. Man and woman coming together create an embryo. In course, a child will be born, and he has to suffer from the time of conception in the development, and then throughout his life he will gain something. Let's just say the wife, and then maybe divorce, lose it. Children, you have children, you love them, and then they forget you, they leave you, they die. Then you have to lose it. So this life becomes a kind of happy, sad balance. And then one day that person in turn will die themselves. Birth and death are a lot of all embodied beings, thus turning the wheel in the sansar. The wheel of time turns. So mortal revolve by the magic of the Lord. They resolve that at one time on earth or another in hell, and they are constantly being pulled by the noose of karma. He who does not give gifts does good karma. This person is truly a pauper, because the person is always going to lose whatever they have because of past sins, current sins. As the pile, as the mountain of sin is building on their backs, it will only cost you to pay more and more tears. Whether any form of poverty, whether any form of hurt and losses. Karma, which is made, whether good or bad, must inevitably be rewarded or suffered. Karma does not suffer, does not fade away, but it can be the situation can be manipulated by doing positive karma. Vrindavan Hari Lal Ki Jai. Taking a pause here. So, for example, what we're talking about that. Remember today, last night I was talking about today is Safal Ekadasi. So people have a huge amount of sin and they're seeing punishment in their life and they're going through trouble, and the person makes the resolution to do Vishnu Bhagwan Puja, do Gayatri Jap, make offerings of ghee into the fire and other things, feeding the dog, etc. And a person can overcome the karma. A person can, you can ask for forgiveness. Negative karma can be overcome by positive karma. If it wasn't so, then when we are praying, why are we praying? What's the value of offering the pinda and the sapinda if there's no way to overcome these things? And this is why when we listen, like tomorrow night I'll do Gita Mahatyam with you and other things, we'll hear the value of some of these things that we have in our text, in our in our dharma. Excuse me. as we reflect back, as Nand is still resting his head into the lap of his son. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol. 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 Mat Prana Drishta Ye Devi Devi Nang Pravarvara Sudhamaha Sadhas Sashrena Vrishwabhanu Sunta Ye Dhana. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol. Jai Jai Radha Ramana Hari Bol. He says, oh Daddy, oh Nand, oh Yashoda. And Yashoda is there and she's crying. Don't look at Radha just as anybody. That Radha, in this life, she's born as the daughter of Vrishwabhanu and Kalavati. Because of the shrap of Sudama, she's born upon this earth, and I cannot be with her for 100 years. But I have to come back for her, because she is the goddess who comes from my body. She is my consort in Golok. And know that the time that we are about to be separated for that 100 years for her will be very difficult. But dear one, I have to go and relieve the earth of her burden, and then I too shall proceed to Golok. This is certain. You, yourself, Nanda Baba, Yashoda, all the cow herders, Vishwabhanu, his wife Kalavati, all the relatives will proceed with me. I will not forsake you. Last night I was talking about the chapter after, where he takes them to Golok. This is where years before, he's not a king yet, he's a little boy, and he says, Daddy, Mommy, I will never forsake you. O virtuous one, you shed away this grief and you go back to Vrindavan and you continue tending to those cows and tending to the making of the dahi and the milk, so that prayers by all the sadhus could be done. And one day I will come back for you. The soul is my reflection. The Jiva Atma that lives within you is a little portion of me, and I am there with you, O Pa, O Nanda Baba. Just as how the whiteness cannot be separated from milk, the coolness of water cannot be separated from it, the instinct of burning cannot be separated from fire, sound cannot be separated from the sky, fragrance cannot be separated from the flowers of the earth, the luster cannot be separated from the sun nor the moon, the soul cannot be separated from the Mahatma, Paramatma. Since there is no difference between them, they are one and the same. Let me just pretend, big flame, Paramatma, little flame, Jiva Atma, my little soul, Jiva Atma, Lord Krishna. Same makeup. Didn't Pandit Vijay explain the layers of the Jiva Atma? Same makeup, just different portion size, tablespoon amount, pot spoon amount. He says, similarly, Radha and myself are inseparable. However, you shed away this feeling. As you notice, she has to play the Leela of being a cow herder. And myself, I am playing the part as your son. But that is only for a little time. O Nanda, both of us, myself and Radha, who represent Prakriti and Purusha, the energy of male and female in the universe creation, the cause of everything, therefore I will reveal to you, my dear one, my true powers, my true nature, the teachings. And this is where, as this text goes on, Krishna always took the time to talk to Nand. Nand and Yashoda were given opportunities that Devaki and Vasudev never dreamed to happen. And on this day, they were crying. In earlier times, I had shown my true form to Brahma. That's when Brahma had kidnapped all the little boys when they were growing up. In earlier times than that, I had shown myself to the Devatas All this was happening when they were in Vrindavan, Gokul. And Opa, one day, similarly, I will come back and I will take you to my lok, to my place, and I will show you who I am. Do not grieve, because the grieving is not going to help you nor I. Do not be one of those people that become so downtrodden and lost in reality that you do not know the cause of the pain, this life, the purpose of my birth, the purpose of all that is happening is pegged upon the removing of the burden of this earth, and that has to do. Is it anywhere, or is it possible for us to really lose each other? Today I give you, for the life that you have given to me as my parents, the love, the care. Tonight I tell you that that would be rewarded with the long-term happiness. That you had to play this part, you wanted to play this part. And now that time has come to a close. And when it is time for us to be reunited, after I play all the parts with the Pandavas, Draupadi, Rukmini, Satyabhama, all the different things that I accomplished, that I have come to accomplish. When the Mahabharata is done, I will come back to remember to uplift my parents, and in doing so reward you for all that you have done. Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai. Everybody join your hands as he gives to him his last blessing in this section. Narayanaya Krishnaya Paramatmaya Namo Namah. He Vrajasha Nanda Tata Jnanam Jnantva Vraja Ye Kathayasya Chatang Radha Yashodhan Jnan Mevascha Jnantva Jnanang Vrajashaischa Janama Sunangah Ye Gatva Cha Kathayanas Te Dvaicha Yoshitam Narayanaya Krishnaya Paramatma Namo Namam. Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai. He says, Dad, oh Nanda Baba, oh Yashoda Mata, as he's wiping the tears from his eyes, don't become so influenced by illusion. You can never lose me. I will always be your son. Only sinful people are unaware of the truth that we are in our cycle, that we are gone today, come back tomorrow, gone today, come back tomorrow. And if you really love somebody, you wish them out of that cycle so that we could be together in Golok. And this is what I am telling you, O Nanda Baba, that you will not be captured in this cycle for all that you have done for me, and the love Yashoda Mata, for every time your heart bled when I was in trouble, for all the different moments that I have put you through. Those moments will come to bear fruit. Wherever I am, hungry, thirsty, always remember that my thoughts, my love are with you, and I will never forget you. I leave Radha, and she will be there with you all, and she will care for you until such time I am ready to come back. And when I come back, Dad, don't worry, That day I will lift you up and I will free you from all the pain, the separation, and all the sickness of this life, and you will be together with me. Lord Vishnu says to Narad Muni, with the imparting of this great knowledge of what is to come, they were all relieved by his smile and by his gentle touch, as the Lord took away all the illusions and all the pain and all the suffering that was being caused because of this impending separation. He walked with them to their vehicles, to their chariots. Yashoda still looking as if she's leaving her baby behind, as she is recalling all the sanskar, one after the first cutting, the mundan, when they were feeding the Anaprashana sanskar, when she fed the baby for the first time. She's remembering as she's looking on with motherly love that she's leaving him. She has no choice. But by the blessings of Krishna, this pain will pass. That when you have true relatives, please remember what I'm saying tonight. When you have true relatives, when you love somebody, Gerd Puran tells you, look at the family. Remember I said that in the beginning? Look at the family. My heart is bleeding because I love this person who I lost. But when you start to think about that person, when you start to reflect on the pain they were going through before they died, then a certain amount of maturity comes over you, and that is where the blessings of Lord Krishna comes. Because then you realize, I don't want you to suffer. And I want you to go and I want you to be happy. So I'm going to do the best prayers and I'm going to make the best takari. I'm going to fast the best. I'm going to play. All the Gita is going to be chanted from YouTube in the day. I don't want nobody quarreling in this house. I don't want no cursing. Everything is going to be easy. If you're not positive, don't come in this kitchen the morning when they're cooking the food for the prayers. It is a joy. Because who you're doing it for, remember, don't get tied up. Like what he's saying here to Yashoda, don't get bogged down in what you cannot control. But what you focus on, if I love Ray, if I love anybody else who lost their family, I am going to do my best to make sure the food is cooked in the best way, in the most appropriate time, so that when this child is going, if it's slippers, if it's umbrella, if it's any necessity that he needs, he will have everything. So as my last point, to jump for tomorrow, what are we doing during this time? Prabhu, chapter 10, verse 8, 9 and 10. I am the source of all creation. Everything comes from me. Param Atma Jivatma. Everything in this world moves because of me. Everything happens because of God's will. Partly, the record of karma is also there too. Knowing that the wise, full of devotion, constantly worship me, because you start to depend on me. With their mind fixed on me and their lives surrendered to me, enlightening one another about my greatness, speaking of me, my devotees, ever remain contented and take delight in me. When you're not having that good day, you talk to God. When you're having the good day, you talk to God. And you start to walk with God. When you jump in the car, you put your day, Jai Vishnu, I'm going. Prabhu, I come back home. And you start to live like that. There's no moment where he's not with you. In this in this way, I shower my grace upon them, dwelling in their heart, dispel the darkness that comes from ignorance. Because now you know the truth. You know the truth of God and his works by shining the light of wisdom in these people. What are we doing? It was Ray's and everybody else who has closed their eye in the recent time. Krishna wants him back. And tears are running from my eyes because we love what we had. But as he said last night in Gerd Puran, you are not sure for tomorrow. Nothing is assured. So we make best with what we have. And as a Hindu, imagine, I always like this analogy. I remember years ago, maybe the first time I was boarding a plane on my own. In our family, my nanny was the luggage, when in those days, she was the luggage packer. You know, going to the airport was a big thing, long time. It was a family outing. And she, you know, she would pack kuchela, and in case you need a little takari, and if you get hungry, and look, it had this, and they had a way to pack, and in those days, we used to get away with it. You remember those days? That type of preparation, that type of help. Imagine, every time you offer pinda, every time you share food, every time you do something, you're helping with goodness. Goodness. Here, Ray boy, put this in your suitcase. You share food for people. Here, put that. God bless you. Put more. You go give away slippers, guitar book. They say the guitar book is the body of Krishna. Put that. Look, the blessing. Put that inside it. People listen to this Satsang. Put that. And the mother and the brother and the sister and the father, everybody trying to pack as much good activity into that suitcase. So on the day for the bandara and everything done, and they out the day where we started to talk about in the beginning, and the Khalsa, and they say, okay, time to out this beacon that is saying, let the soul stay here. It's time for you to travel now. Go easy with your suitcase, waiting for like a taxi side the road. That time Ray would have all the good and all the punyam and all the help and everything you could help that person with. That becomes the goal. Because that is the time we have to, that is what you could do. I could stand up and I could use my two hands to help this child, so that when it's time for him to go, I know he's going to be comfortable. And God bless the mother and the father and the brothers and sisters who could do that, because you could make that impact now for this child. When you love somebody, you don't love them while they're in front of you alone. But the day they close their eyes, you continue to love them. You continue to respect them. And this is what Sanatana Dharma preaches. Prem Sabala Vindravan Bihari Lalaki Jai. Tonight, we've touched on many topics, and I apologize for going over the time. I hope you've learned something. It is an introductory discourse. As I said, it is a rough situation for the Kungebeharry family, because this guy was a young person, and the circumstances, he was cut short in his life, and I hope everybody can understand that. So we've discussed karma, and we've discussed the things we see in our body and in our lives. Where does it come from? And for the next 2 nights, we'll be going forward from there. I invite you all, if you have any questions or anything you would like me to read or touch on, please feel free. Just to help, we'll be helping Ray. Send your questions, send your comments. Daniel, if you're watching, son, and anybody asks you, maybe you know, tonight I touched on something that you would like to, you know, ventilate a little more, feel free to reach out, and I'll try my best to do that. Everybody, so let me conclude for now, because I don't see the time going. Let's put our hands together as we do final pratna, and then we'll continue from tomorrow night. Thank you all for viewing. Let's say prayers now. Tvameva mata chapita tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Om shanti shanti shanti. Hari Om. Prem Sabala Vindravan Bihari Lala Ki Jai. Satya Sanatana Dharma Ki Jai. Everybody, hope you have a safe night. God bless you all. Be good tomorrow, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Sitaram. Bye bye.